Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them for the first time in a long time. I'm recording this on a Monday. I don't know if it'll get out by Monday evening, but as for now, that's when I'm deciding to record it. I went to go visit my family and go to my 10-year high school reunion this last weekend, so I was not home. I had a makeshift setup where I was visiting, but I decided Sunday after a few too many whiskeys that I probably should just sleep in that day because I had a long day of travel coming up the next day. So I didn't get any of that done, so I'm getting this done on the Monday. Other than that, there's not really too much going on, at least nothing that I'm going to talk about in this video in particular. But I am working on the remaining Versus videos. I got a couple other things that I'm working on as well. Stuff for Twitch. If you guys ever come into my Twitch stream, we have our holiday emotes all set. Plus, I've got a few other things I'm planning for that. But I am exhausted, so I've already had the Patreon thing rolling. Thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel in addition to the usual stuff. Obviously, if you're not supporting on Patreon, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for enjoying the content here on the channel. And those on Patreon, thank you for your extra support as well. We also have our Patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Jenova, and Kurenai Oni, who have been massive supporters for the last several months and years. But with that, let's get to some questions. Now, last week I said shorter video. This week I'm hoping for a shorter video, but there's more comments than last week, so we'll see. With how tired I am, I might just have to say, I think I'm done with the amount of questions for now. Alright, question number one, and that's a lot of words in one paragraph for how tired I am, so let's get to this. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy, I have a question regarding current healing/damage dichotomy. Back before Shadowbringers came out, you had you had Mary, Ethis, and Sly. I was like, who's Mrhappy? Alright, that could be their combined name. And the four of you talked about your expectations for both the amount of healing and damage healers would have to do in this expansion at high-end raids. You were in the avenue saying 55-45, majority of healer actions being damage. My question is to you, do you think this prediction was accurate? And do you like where it is now, or do you like to see a change? I'm a tank main, so I can't really form an opinion. But I'm interested in the design. Thanks. No, it's probably something like 70-30. I don't know. I could just look at FF logs. FF logs would have very solid, per GCD use information on this stuff. So without doing that, anything I say is conjecture and isn't really using stats that are publicly available. But if I had to take a guess, just a shot in the dark, it'd probably be 70-30, something like that now, outside of Ultimate. So in Dungeons, it's like 90-10. In Savage, it's probably like 70-30. And in Ultimate, dude, healing in this first Ultimate was actually pretty nuts. I gotta admit, when I watch the healers having to handle certain things, I'm like, yo, good luck, man. I'm a DPS. I don't want to deal with that. I got your Kieran Waltz right here, but that's about it. But that's probably something closer to maybe like a 60-40. Again, the information's there. I'm just not looking at it. So I'd say no. The prediction was not even close. I also felt like from the media tour to what I played on the live servers, it's hard to tell how much of that was comfort with the individual jobs or comfort playing my own character, etc., etc. But it really did feel like Don Meg, which was the dungeon we got to play at the media tour, it felt like it was doing more damage in the build that we played at the media tour than when we actually played it live. And that really wouldn't surprise me. We know that they go through damage balancing on stuff like that. I remember Yoshi P has mentioned multiple times there's been dungeons that they had to tune back a lot from their initial development, the 4-man dungeons, because it was essentially like an extreme or savage dungeon. I think one of them they mentioned was the original St. Mosion's Arboretum, not hard mode, but the original. I think they said actually was like super overtuned when they first did it. I'm just saying you can go ahead and release that into the game. We're actually kind of down for that. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying. But yeah, no, I don't think we were anywhere close. Now that's a lot less words, and it's 2 questions, so I'm impressed. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays, hashtag 2 questions. Hello, Happy. Do you think 6.0 will give us Chemist as a new healer job? I don't think there's any way to answer that with any degree of confidence. First of all, if we do get something like a Chemist, it will not be called Chemist in my opinion. It'll be called something like Salve Maker, so something more ambiguous, because they're definitely going to want to avoid the confusion between having Chemist and Alchemist. They've even expressed that in the past with the naming convention that's there. I think it's possible. It's on my personal want list. It essentially could be like a healer ninja where you have to do, mixing potions like you would Mudras, and then you can execute the potions and use whatever their effects might be. I wouldn't rule it out, but there's really nothing to say for or against any job. The only thing you could reasonably predict right now is that Puppet Master and Beastmaster probably won't happen. And that's only because they've been listed as potential limited jobs. But we also don't know how people are going to respond to future Blue Mage updates and how that's going to impact whether or not they do another limited job. So there's no way I can say yes or no to this question, but I think it would be cool. And two, do you think the War rework will give us back Heavensward Warrior? No, I think I'm kind of torn, because obviously we talked about reworks in the previous episode, and I had a hard time really coming to I guess a conclusion on jobs that really need full-on reworks and don't just need power shifts. And Warrior is kind of an interesting topic, because if people talk about doing it to Warrior, when also people say that Dark Knight kind of adopted Warrior's whole, like, here's my 10-second super window time, and that perhaps Dark Knight needs another look, and then Warrior just needs to have certain things tuned differently so that it maybe just gets a little bit less stagnant than it is now. Unfortunately, as someone who doesn't play tanks, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's definitely, I mean, Heavensward Warrior was the eventual start of what we have. I guess it's not really like what we have now. That really started in Stormblood, when we first got in a release, and then it was reworked to what we got. I think it was in 4.2 where the Inner Beast rework, might have been 4.1. It's been a couple of years, but no, I don't think they'll ever do that. Heavensward Warrior was not terribly different from now. It just kind of didn't have that super 10-second burst window. There was a lot more management, I suppose, of the stacks for your resources, so you could do the fell cleaves at specific times. But no, I don't think so. I think you're more likely to see it go in a whole new direction. I don't think this inner release thing is going to stop. I think they'd sooner rework Dark Knight, again, to be less like Warrior than rework Warrior. But that's just my opinion. All right, next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Long time viewer, first time asker. Hello to you too, by the way. What's your thoughts on Dancer so far? Why do I feel like I just answered this last week? I don't know, I'm tired. I'll just answer it again. I personally find it a bit underwhelming. I don't think buffing our DPS potencies are a good way of going at it, considering how RNG plays such a big role. I'd rather have them focus on our support skill. What are your thoughts? I think it's hard to judge, because Dancer and Bard are pretty... Actually, I mean, all the ranged physical right now are relatively close to each other. The bigger question is not how the individual ranged physical are doing. It's closer to how they do compared to the other roles. Obviously, with Summoner and Black Mage being as strong as they are, people look at the ranged physical role and they go, you guys maybe could use a little bit of love, but they're still being included in pretty much all endgame content as it is anyway. So I guess as long as the role itself, it's about balancing the three jobs within that role against each other, which luckily we just talked about in the recent Range Versus video, which I think this came out before I released the Range Versus. So maybe that's why I feel like I've talked about it, because I released the whole video on it. Let's see. So, much rather than focus on sports skills. No, I think this specifically, the only thing Dancer really needs at this point is a few things that shore up its actual gameplay. I think Improv, this is something I've been saying since it came out, Improv needs to not require nearby party members in order to generate the maximum number of Esprit. It should be 10 Esprit per tick. It'd be a great quality of life for it, makes it a lot more easy to use, makes it easier to use, just even like for that brief second to activate it between a GCD, just to get a little bit of bonus Esprit. Be a nice little optimization that you can do now, but requires party positioning to play a factor in that. I also think Saber Dance should extend flourished finishers by 5 seconds, so that way when you make the decision to use a Saber Dance, you're not then calculating, well, I just did 4 Saber Dances in a row, is that going to affect my ability to actually use my finishing my flourished finishers, yeah, we'll call them that, which I think is a big, disconnection between the job. And those are really the two big things I'd like to see them adjust. Other than that, no. It's just a job that requires you to have a decent party on top of you being good at the job, which it can be a little bit tough because you can be playing really well yourself but not have a great dance partner or party altogether, and it starts to lose its efficiency. But then I'd say that its numbers start to kind of match the average skill level of the group, and you still kind of fit right where you should be in terms of your overall party efficiency. Just know that if you're ever above everyone else as a dancer, then yeah, you're probably not in the right place at the current moment. All right, on to the next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. You didn't say hi, but you asked how I was doing, so I can appreciate that. Since Firebird Trance on Summoner automatically changes to Summon Phoenix, do you think Square Enix could add that to Dreadworm Trance? I'm assuming you mean that Firebird Trance automatically summons the Phoenix, because they're not two different things. It's not like Dreadworm Trance finishes, summon Bahamut, whereas Firebird Trance is literally just you use it, and Phoenix comes, and you're in Firebird Trance at the same time. Well, it's not as simple as a matter of changing it or adding that to Dreadworm Trance, because it does need to factor into the overall cycle of how long it takes for a summoner to power up. So if they were to make this change, which I think it honestly is going to happen, I think the thing you suggested is absolutely going to happen, it still does come down to there needs to be some sort of power shift, because you can't just have everything exactly as it is and then just skip the whole summon Bahamut thing, because right now it's balanced around the fact that you will have to go into Dreadworm Trance first, and while most people, from what I recall, exit it very swiftly to get to their Bahamut quite quickly so they can get to Firebird Trance quickly, there's still a balancing done there, and they clearly find it valuable enough to have Dreadworm Trance, forcing it to finish before getting to summon Bahamut. Then do they have to reconsider the way that Death Flare? Sorry, I don't play a lot of Summoner, so the names of the abilities I'll probably get wrong. Death Flare, that causes you to get the Bahamut Ether. They then need to completely rework the way that works and the way Dreadworm Trance works, because people exit it as swiftly as they do. They need to consider what the most valuable thing about it is and shift it so if you are going to be in it for its entire duration, and Bahamut will be there. A lot of things need to change. I do think that's going to happen, though. I do think they will do those number adjustments. I just don't think it's going to be anytime soon. All right, on to the next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello to a lot of not hellos, but like wishing you well and all that. I'll take that. I'll take it. Hope all is well with you, and I hope you got your ultimate clear. Nah, dude, I'm probably gonna just wait another few weeks, do some fresh prog, because I gotta freshly reprog the whole thing, because on the Fate Calibrations of Perfect Alexander, the evening group, just one person was removed, 2 people quit. Then I decided I couldn't keep doing 2-3 weeks of evening raids, especially because I was going to be away for Thanksgiving. I'm going to be away for another weekend after that. So I'm just kind of resetting on that, go back into reprog with a fresh mindset, and get that done when I get it done. At this point, it's just not the most important thing to me. Just one quick question. With the new reworking of the quest for the tail end of A Realm Reborn, do you think it would be a good idea to substitute the Crystal Tower raid storyline for some of the fetch quests that now exist? Thank you for all you do. It was a pleasure running into you in Eureka a few months ago. Pleasure running into you as well. I don't remember your name, because I'm assuming your YouTube name does not match your character, but I'm sure we had a good time. I don't think it's as simple as what you're suggesting. So the big thing is that what you're implying is that now you'll have to do 24-mans as part of the main scenario. And they've made it a pretty... again, this is not that they couldn't, decide to do things differently, but they've always made it a point to leave 8-man and 24-man raids out of the main scenario. We don't have Omega, Alexander, Coil, we don't have Eden. None of those are part of the main story, even if some of them are extensions of major plot points in the story. And the same goes with the 24-mans. Those have always been separated. So the thought that they would kind of go against that convention that they've set in stone pretty well it just seems unlikely. But it is, again, they could do it. I don't think there's any harm. I think we destroy it easily enough, and the queues for it are fine enough that realistically isn't a feasible concern anymore to like make it a reason to not include it. But I can't speak for them. So is it possible? Would it be a good idea is really the main question. I think it's a neutral idea. I think it would definitely tie in better for Shadowbringers, but I think the bigger concern is cutting down on the amount of time it takes to do the Realm Reborn stuff. And I think a lot of that, well, yes, 2.1 to 2.5 is a big problem. Honestly, level 1 to 50 kind of needs it just as much. So I'm kind of looking to some of the really annoying quests from 1 to 50, and then specifically 2.1 to 2.3. I think 2.4 and 2.5 wrap up quickly enough with, maybe a little bit too much on 2.5 because it was a 2-part patch back in the day. So that's how I feel about it. I just don't think they'll take this approach. Alright, this one doesn't have a hashtag, but it is most certainly a question, so I'm going to stop here. Hey, Haps, love your stuff. Keep your chin up. Hey, you can see it a little bit better now at the very least. Premise: as someone who played a lot during A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and slightly less on Stormblood, and only done the story in Shadowbringers, I feel the content is recycled and very repetitive from expansion to expansion. There's basically no innovation content-wise. I love the Eureka since it was new and very different from Dungeons raids 24 players. Personally, I get burned out very quick from the rinse-repeat dungeons and raid runs. Question: in your opinion, is 14 going to have some innovation, new content during Shadowbringers? If so, what do you think it will be? I think the 99% of everything you play in Final Fantasy 14 will be what is stuck to the formula and what is safe. The idea is to use Final Fantasy XIV as a vessel to deliver content that has historically been approved by the player base in the past. That has been what they've done since A Realm Reborn. It has been what has continued to raise their subs over the years, and while that consistency is certainly not for everybody, as you've stated, some people find it repetitive, it gets you a little burnt out when you're playing something the same with a new skin. It's a matter of how you actually view that new skin, because I enjoy whenever we get a new boss, a new dungeon. I like dissecting how that affects the overall world of Final Fantasy XIV, so for me there's slightly more depth. From an actual gameplay perspective though, if that is your primary concern, I wouldn't expect to see too much. Even Eureka was mostly just ideas borrowed from older MMOs, with Final Fantasy XI being one of the games you could draw the most comparisons to, especially when they quoted it and referenced it all the time. And even then, it was just at least with Pagos. Here's the thing, Onimos was tolerable. Pyros and Hydatos I had fun with, especially Baldesion Arsenal, which I hope we get another one. And then Pagos kind of shows you the weakness of having those like long grind sessions in Final Fantasy XIV. In that, in Pagos, when it first released, you pretty much needed to be on the ball the whole time in order to make any sort of reasonable amount of progress in a reasonable amount of time. And the game is just not built around that. So we have the highs and the lows when it comes to those things, and it's a matter of how people receive those highs and lows. And I don't think we'll ever see a Pagos, anything like Pagos, ever again. Whereas if we do see exploration content, which I think is likely, it's likely to be more along the lines of Hydatos and Pyros, kind of as like the benchmark of what is the minimum acceptable, and then what they do with it from there will probably be, you know, something slightly innovative or interesting. I wouldn't see, that's the thing, I wouldn't really call Eureka an innovation. It's different, but I wouldn't call it an innovation. It's still, you know, for all intents and purposes, for a lot of us, it was a fate farm. You know, that's just what it came down to outside of initial release Pagos. And then until Pyros, where we could do somewhat different things with the light farming, as well as the specific way we did light farming in Pyros, as well as hunting down the treasure bunnies and stuff like that. It's just things that became more popular as Pyros rolled around, even if they were somewhat present in Pagos. So I would say, honestly, I'm going to answer this and just be like, 99% of the stuff will never be innovative. It is always going to be a vessel for delivering consistent, reliable content updates to paying subscribers. And I don't think that's going to change. And wow, I mean, I wanted a shorter video this week. That was pretty much all the questions. It looks like a lot of the comment count was people commenting on last week's episode and not people asking questions. So I'm at like 23 minutes. I think there was one question here I didn't take because I don't think I had an answer for it. So most people answering, like, commenting on last week's questions. There's one about glamours that I so rare, like, other than the Toad outfit, I like don't glam at all. So I don't really have much of an opinion on that. And yeah, like there's just like some disagreements, some discussions, and that's really it. So damn, we got a short episode this week. You know what? It's a good week to have a short episode for Mondays with Mr. Happy, because in case you can tell, I'm tired. So, and as much as I'm tired, I still want to get some work done on some other things. And I think I can go grab a coffee and then try to get some of that work done. It's gonna be a busy week for me, so I'm going to wrap up this very short Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, be sure to ask questions in next week's Mondays with Mr. Happy. I'd like to keep them at least like between 30 and 40 minutes. Last week's 50-minute episode, you know, it's a nice thing once in a while, but you know, we got a show to fill out here. All right, so let's get some questions down there this time. But anyway, be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And of course, thank you again to our patrons for supporting. And hopefully, I can finish up the healer versus in a reasonable amount of time this week, even though I have a lot of real life stuff I gotta take care of this week. So we'll see how much spare time I actually have. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. And until next time, take care.